All right, we're gonna do a tubeless conversion on this 2018 Specialized Chisel. This is an aluminum M5, supposed to be the aluminum version of the Carbon Epic, was what I'm told. Anyways, I like it. New bike, excited to ride it. So what Specialized did here is, looks like they gave us a plastic tire liner, but it also is convertible to go tubeless. So instead of taking your original plastic liner off, most of them are plastic or nylon, taking that off and then you're putting rim tape, probably like a Stan's sealant tape, that yellow stuff, if you're familiar with Stan's. So instead of doing that, you're allowed to keep the stock OEM tire liner, which is protecting the tube from the spoke holes, the sharp spoke holes. So we can use this. It's such a tight fit from end to end. I believe it's 25 millimeters wide. And as long as it's not curling up and making contact with the area where the tire bead needs to lock. So I'm actually not feeling any lock here. I'm going with my fingernail on the inside edge of this rim. I'm not feeling anything there. So I think this might be that new style. I forgot what they call it. Maybe similar to something that we have on our vehicles for the rims. So anyways, we're gonna leave the stock OEM plastic or nylon liner on, and it actually says tubeless on it. So we're gonna put my tire back on, which is a tubeless tire, it's a Specialized, and then we're gonna add some sealant. Actually, we're gonna get it started first. We're going to put the tire on, see if we can get it inflated to see what we're dealing with. That way we don't have to have sealant inside, making a big mess, spilling stuff. So get it started, get it seated. Basically, we call it a dry fit, and then if everything goes well, we'll deflate it, go ahead and put sealant back inside. We're either injecting it through the valve core here, or we can open a section of tire and just pour it in or shoot it in and then button it back up. So let's go. So one way we can tell there is something here. I do see a pattern on it. It does say tubeless, kind of pressed in or embossed in this plastic or nylon liner. So I'm going to go ahead and get something sharp, a pick or a kind of a sharp or slightly dulled screwdriver tip, and we're going to find the valve hole. So valve hole is right here. So I'm going to come in with my tip here, and I'm going to come just underneath the liner, between the rim and the liner, come over to the side without poking through the liner. So here we got it here. And then once we do that, then we can just kind of move over, get my finger under here. So that's just verifying that this is a rim liner, and it is just a nice tight fit from one end to the other. And again, there's no lip here. So this is a new style. It's probably been around for a long time on some vehicle rims. It's almost like a beadless rim, I think is actually what they're calling it. So somehow the tire bead locks in here still with air pressure. So black magic, I think. So when you get this back on, make sure that the hole is lining up. If you need to shift it over, maybe give it a push. And then if you got any folded ends on the end here, get those nice and flat. So you want this going from end to end. Basically this nice tight fit, it's covering the spoke holes. Spoke hole here, spoke hole, and so on. So if there is any issues, any voids, like this guy got a little wrinkled. So right here, this could be iffy, but I think once we get that fluid, the sealant inside there, it's going to take care of any minor issues where we could have potential leaking. But as long as the rest of it is in pretty good shape, I think we'll be all right. So we're going to get this wheel off, get our tire back on. So this is running a through axle. There is no quick release to cinch down tension. So we're going to use the number 6 here. It shouldn't be too tight. These are probably like 8 to 12 Newton meters if I had to guess. Just a few screws, hold on to your wheel, slide this guy out, set him aside. And then I forgot to downshift my derailleur. As long as your clutch is off, if you run a Shimano, usually the chain is all the way in the smallest gear, but we can still get it done if you know how to manipulate that rear derailleur. So I'm going to go ahead and relax this, so when I have to put it back on, it's going to be a lot easier. There. So I'm going to throw the tire back on. So brand new, this setup came with 2 tubes, so we're taking out the 29. I'll probably save this as a spare, keep it somewhere on the bike or on me just as in a big emergency. So if I maybe get a cut on the sidewall or something too big for the sealant to repair, Usually the sealant can fill up to like a 1/4 inch. If that's a problem, then I'll have to just open it up, shove that tube in there, and pump it up. So I'm carrying a CO2 cartridge as well. You know, just like having a spare tire on your car. Hopefully you never have to use it, but we're glad it's there. So a lot of tires are directional. So a lot of times you can tell with the tread, kind of going like an arrow going that way. So that's going to be going forward. So I'll position myself with the bike. My drivetrain is on the right side. I'm going to be rolling that direction. Tread is going that direction. When in doubt, look on the sidewall of your tire. There should be an arrow. Actually, it says rotation going that way. And then this is just for more style points. You can find your logo. Actually, the logo can help you find your valve core when you're looking for it real quickly. There's no pretty logos here other than this here. So I'll just line it up in the middle of this logo here. And this, so if I search for my logo on the wheel, I'll find my valve core quicker. So I'll be able to air it up. So remember that hole has to be, all the holes aligned here. Go ahead and place the logo in the middle of the valve, or the valve hole, and then just get this guy back on. I like to use the table. This thumb is locking on the tire, so it's not going to shift on me. And then just get one side of the bead on. It actually fell off on the other side, so you can only do one side at a time. So I'm going to start over. So it seems like it's a loose fitting tire for now, but let's get one bead on. So maybe it's easier if I do this in hand. Yeah, I can get this on with just a couple fingers. Okay, and then we're going to go ahead and button up the rest. So we're doing a dry fitting with no tube, obviously, no sealant. So we're going to button this guy up. So this is where a lot of people have issues. So it depends on the tire and tube combination. If you're getting a legitimate tubeless tire, that's going to help tons. And if you got a legitimate tubeless rim, that should help even more. So this rim is not a UST, so it does have spoke holes. So that's why we have that tire liner there. And let's see what we get. Every new wheel and tire is a new exploration. So I'm going to go ahead and probably use air compressor. If you have a pump, you can try a pump. Sometimes a floor pump would work. That means you have a great system. It's just going to give you no issues. But I don't want to mess around. I got an air compressor, so I'm going to go ahead and turn that on for a sec. What I did forget is to put our universal valve. These are by Stans. So these valves have a removable core, so it allows me to go back, take the core out, use the injector, squeeze it in through the injector. So it's always nice. I guess it's a good idea. That way, instead of the other alternative, instead of injecting it through the core, you're opening up a section of tire. You can consider that disturbing the seal. But I've done it in the past, and everything seals back up. Especially if it's been on there, you know, several weeks or a few months. The seal is pretty well established, so it's going to be reusable if you think about it that way. But so I'm going to have to open up this tire and install one of these guys. So valve hole is right here. Open enough tire there so we can get this guy started. What I like about Stans is the rubber is round. It's not dipped in and convex or whatever. Yeah, because some of these have issues sitting in the middle of the rim. This one's so narrow and fine that it can accommodate just about any shape rim on the inside. Shove that in, and just lost my ring. So you're going to use your ring here. This is about the only time I use these Prestavalve rings. If I'm got a road bike with tubes, probably not running the ring. I'm not even running the dust valve cover cap or whatever. These you want to tighten down finger tight as hard as you can. If you can't get it tight as you think you should, get a pair of needle nose and cinch them up. Don't go crazy, But we can always go back if we notice any leaks and take care of that. Cool, so we got that in there. Button this back up. So again, this is your dry fit. And the more legit of a tubeless tire and rim setup you have, the better chances you have of airing this up, especially if there's no sealant. The sealant is just going to take care of any possible voids that you have, if there's any unnatural or whatever inconsistencies in the tire bead and the rim. So as long as we can get this thing started, get it planted. This is going to be new for me with the beadless rim. So we're going to see how this works out. But the tire looks the same, has a regular bead. So air compressor. So I got the air compressor all the way up. It goes to 120. It depends if it's at 100 and it's a real hard issue, pain in the butt, then maybe 100 PSI is not enough. So I need to take it up to my max. So this is open. I'm going to go ahead and leave the core inside for now. So this is my first test. If we have trouble getting air in there at a fast rate, then I'm going to take the core out, basically clearing the airway, and then trying this again. If this doesn't work, then we're going to go to something that's just going to shoot straight air, like if I was going to dust the whole floor. Fast high compressed air is going to go out. That's the key to getting tubeless systems set up, is sharp, fast bursts of air. So clear the airway, take the valve out, switch from this style inflator to something that just shoots pure blast of air. But let's go. So it's actually took, and I'm not hearing any popping, I'm not hearing the bead clipping on. So that's about 10 PSI. I'm going to keep going. It's 20. So typically we want to take this up to 40 PSI. Still 20. So there's a little pop there. So you can hear it leaking. I didn't quite get to 40 PSI. 40 PSI really allows the tire to get locked on here. So we're getting some leaks somewhere, maybe at the base here. I'm going to close this, tighten this spring up a little bit. So definitely getting a lot through there. That's where the sealant's going to take over. If we had sealant sitting at the bottom, I'd be giving this a shake so the sealant would shoot up and hit the base of this valve. But other than that, I'm pretty impressed, pretty super happy. This guy is airing up with no issues whatsoever. So pretty confident. I'm going to go ahead and put sealant inside. And that's what you get when you got a legitimate tubeless tire and a tubeless rim setup. They're going to complement each other and just make your life so much easier. So I think we'll go injector on this one. So this happens to be by Stans. The other ones are Park. So this is a valve core remover. It does both Schrader and Presta. So this guy. So the way you can tell that you have a removable core on your valve is the actual core has a flat side, and then threads all the way around. And then this guy, same thing, flat side, he's going to lock up perfectly. So if you don't see flat side, you just see threads all the way around, then it is not a removable core. But this one is, so cleared the airway. Go ahead and get my injector. All right, and this stuff you got to shake because all the little bits, they fall to the bottom. Shake it, use it immediately. I don't know how fast this stuff settles. We want to make sure we get liquid as well as the little little beads, or whatever you want to call them. Those are the ones that if you get a cut, those little beads, the liquid takes them there like a vessel, and the pressure finds the hole, and then those little beads clog up that hole immediately. And then they make contact with the air and basically starts to dry up, I think, at least from the outside. So shake this guy good. The bottle says how much to put in. So like bicycle tires, 1 to 2.4 inches or 2.4, use 2 to 3 ounces. So it sounds about right. 2 ounces minimum, 3 ounces great. This is a 29er, so I'll probably go with the latter. Especially a new tire. It's going to take quite a bit of liquid to coat the inside. and there won't be too much left sitting at the bottom. So I think 3 ounces is good for starters. Going back to refill down the road, after stuff starts to evaporate, you can do probably two ounces. So let's get this guy started. Do that. You could probably use gloves. This stuff, it's a little icky, but it's not terrible. Ooh, so the bead just popped off right there. So there's no core, so the air was just kind of eventually going out. They had no pressure, so I'm taking this to the max. This thing holds 2 ounces. So I'm gonna let this sit over here. So since the bead kind of came off, it's away from the rim. It's sitting in the middle of the rim now. I want to make sure when I put fluid in here, it's not going to leak out the bottom. So I'm going to move him over to the side. Let that relax. Come back with this guy. You'll get a little bit of drip. A little bit of drip's all right. Keep mess to a minimum. Put a little bend in this hose so it's not dripping out, and then you can go ahead and get it started. You can put this upside down or sideways. You're just gonna have to spin the whole syringe to get started. Now this tip on the syringe is plastic, so be very careful with the threading. You could cross thread and strip it really quickly. Okay, now we're on. I'm gonna go ahead and bring this guy down or sideways, and then just go ahead and push and inject. So this is 2 ounces right there. Whoop. Careful there. If we put it down 6 o'clock position, we could open up the tire and get some leakage. So get my towel ready. All right, I'm going to go for 1 more ounce. I'm going to give this guy another shake. This is a 32-ounce bottle. What do these run? I don't know, 16, 24 bucks. So going for 1 more ounce. There is some writing on here. Let's make sure we get liquid. Okay, just 1 more ounce. And all right, so if you start to see a little bit of drippage down here at the bottom, not a big deal. You might just have to take some of that pressure off, try and lift it up, maybe hang it. That's probably a good thing to do too. And then if you really want to empty this guy out, the syringe completely, let's put a cap on this guy so I don't knock it over and spill everything. So I'm going to tilt this in the downward position. So I'm going to go ahead and take this syringe out in a controlled manner with my thumb and fingers. Cool. And that'll let the rest of this fluid in the hose just drain. That way we're getting our money's worth. And we'll go ahead and unscrew, tilt this back, minimize drippage. You learn this stuff after making a huge mess, if you know what I mean. All right, so these guys can go over here. Go back with our valve core and our tool. If you want, you can stick the valve core back in and screw in as one unit. Just be real gentle, make sure you get the thread started, and then tighten it up as tight as you can. If the whole core is turning, try and turn this base ring. Yeah, I can only do it so tight. So right now the whole thing wants to turn, so I'm gonna see if I can cinch up this base ring we're talking 1/8 of a turn or maybe 1/4, and then tighten up. There we go. So you definitely want that valve core tight inside there. So some CO2 cartridges have to screw on to this valve core, and you can put your air, but when you go to unscrew, it may unscrew your core with it, and which is going to let all your air out. So that happened to me once. Not fun if you're out on the trail. Okay, we can always go back to this base if it's still leaking, but we can also shake the tire, get the liquid jumping around and hitting the spots that it normally wouldn't hit, because right now the fluid's always at the bottom. So if I shake it, it's going to jump up. And so a couple of things to look for if you see leakage right at the spoke, at the base of the spoke or base of the nipple. That means the tire liner or your tape is leaking. So maybe just continuing to work the fluid, the sealant, could possibly stop that from happening. So now we're going to go ahead and air back up. So I'm going to keep this guy from the 6 o'clock just to avoid any leakage. Get that on there. By the way, I like this Park Tool inflator. It's the INF2. Works pretty good. Got a swivel head for both Schrader and Presta. So careful about squeezing this too much. It might prohibit or stop air from coming in. So I'm going to try and not put my hand there. There we go. So now I'm going to try and take this up to 40 psi. And if you notice, some of the bead is stuck inside. Once we put the appropriate amount of air, it's going to shoot the bead out, lock it in place. Okay, I'm going to stop there. It says I'm about 25 psi, but I need this valve core to stop leaking. So basically making noise. There we go. You probably can't hear that, but you can hear the fluid sloshing around, and a lot of that air leakage just stopped. So I got the majority of it. If you need to, you got to turn down your radio. So that went real quiet. So a lot of these tires have a thin line right at the base of the rim. You can follow that. If you see some of that sunken in, make sure you hit 40 psi. It should get everything nice and even pushed out. Make sure that tire is locked in, and then you can go ahead and deflate. And if you still hear air leaking, find the location or use a bottle with soapy water, give it a spray. I usually keep something like this. So this is a 5-year guarantee bottle, Spraymaster. Very good, I'm very happy with this. Probably, I forgot how much these are. But a little bit of soapy water, give your whole rim a spray all the way around, and then you can see where the bubbles are coming out. And then you can go and just rotate the wheel, and then just kind of slosh it around, get that liquid where it needs to go. So we're going to top this off. And we're at 20 psi. And 40. And just make sure when you take that pump head on and off, it's going straight, on, off, straight. That way you don't bend the little tip of the Presta valve. And then tighten this guy up. Go back, double check your base, double check your core. And I don't hear anything. It's holding good air. So what you could do is you could just spin it in your hand, put it on the true stand and spin it, put it on your bike. It's probably the best thing, and just kind of tootle around your neighborhood or driveway. Jump off of curbs or whatever, get that liquid splashed everywhere. So, and then don't be surprised if you come back in the morning and the tire is super low or completely flat. It just means that you had some slow leak somewhere, and we just need to circulate that sealant some more. So just put the air back in, take it for another spin. Sometimes I'll just take it for an actual ride, and I'm pretty confident it's going to seal everything up. Yeah, but always carry spare air with you, either a hand pump or CO2 cartridges. So that's pretty good. This is a Fast Track tire, and it's a stock Specialized rim. It's a 148 hub, and I'm super happy with that. I got one more to do, actually 3 more. Yeah, 3 more. Go ahead and if you guys like what you hear, give me a couple thumbs up, subscribe, and hit me up if you have any questions.